Central Florida, Orlando, and you're listening to Box Office Breakdown. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. If you could not tell from our intro music, this is our Game of Thrones show. We are going to talk about everything Game of Thrones, breaking down each season, every story arc, and all our favorite characters. There's a big spoiler warning out there, folks, so if you haven't seen the show, maybe don't listen in. We have two very special guests today. Our first guest is a filmmaker and Game of Thrones expert, Spencer Giles. How are you, Spencer?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
And along with Spencer, we have Joe Jacks, a fellow filmmaker and friend, and a Game of Thrones fan who has some unique opinions on the later seasons. Welcome, Joe.
What is up, dog?
Thank you for that. We're going to be also talking about the box office numbers for last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend. Then at the end of the show, we're going to name our classic movie of the week. And right now we're going to get into the box office report. And the top is none other than Shazam. The DC venture picked up $53 million domestically this weekend and more than $159 million worldwide. Comparisons have been drawn to Marvel's Ant-Man's opening, which was $57.2 million domestic, which, if this comparison remained true, would put Shazam's total worldwide gross at about $500 million. While the boy-turned-superhero flick exceeded expectations this past weekend, has an astounding 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, there is some cause for concern. Obviously, when Endgame comes out later this April, all other films will be snapped out of existence in the minds of their filmgoers, so Shazam has a limited window to gross as much as it can. And China, like we mentioned often in this segment before, is a very important market for blockbuster films nowadays. Aquaman owes a lot of its success to China, but as it was the lowest opening weekend for DC films domestically, Shazam underperformed in the China debut.
Shazam, with good word of mouth, might very well maintain its momentum here, but it'll be a difficult financial journey without the heavy assist from China's moviegoers. Not to worry if you are a Shazam fan, however, because there are already reports that a sequel can be expected with largely the same minds behind it.
Number 2 for this weekend is the adaptation of Stephen King's Pet Sematary with the $25 million opening. This is in line with studio predictions for the picture, as well as other films like Evil Dead Remake or 2007's Halloween Remake. Based on those films, Pet Sematary should bow out somewhere around $60 million domestic.
Number 3 saw Dumbo taking a hard fall with a 60% drop from last weekend, amounting to $18.2 million. The film has $218 million worldwide, but things still look bleak for Tim Burton's reimagining of the Disney classic.
Jordan Peele's horror thriller Us takes the number 4 spot with $13 million. The genre competition from Pet Sematary does seem to have affected Us's performance, but it seems like the sophomore effort from the writer-director will soon surpass Get Out's domestic gross of $176 million.
And taking the 5th spot is Captain Marvel, pulling in $12 million. This marks the first weekend in 2019 that each of the top 5 films at the box office grossed over $10 million. Truly, the movie season is finally gearing up for this year.
The last film we'll discuss is the opening weekend for the Styx film, The Best of Enemies, starring Sam Rockwell and Taraji P. Henson. It made $4.4 million, disappointing even from its low expectations. And next week we'll discuss how Hellboy, Little, and Missing Link fared at the increasingly crowded box office. But now it is time to discuss Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones has been an amazing series and a revolution for television. Based on George R.R. Martin's book series, A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones follows the warring families of Westeros as they battle for the Iron Throne and to rule all. From the noble Starks to the conniving Lannisters that all pay their debts and the overthrown Targaryens, Westeros is a battleground for power. And now as the show draws to a close, we reflect on the past 8 years. Winter is here. All right, gentlemen.
Excellent introduction, fellas. There's a Styx movie with Sam Rockwell?
Yeah. He's playing a... can you believe it? Yeah. He's playing a KKK person.
It's
I think I saw the trailer for it.
It's like Green Book, like one of those movies.
Styx, like
Hidden
the band?
Figures. It's like Green Book or Hidden Figures. No, like a company.
Oh, I thought it was the band. That would have been sick if it was.
That would have been a lot better and a lot less racist.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. Styx does not have the Y, though. The film company. No Y.
No, I wish... I made up a better movie in my head just now. But yeah, Game of Thrones.
All right, we're going to talk about Season 1. What'd you guys think? Spencer, you have some book knowledge.
I have a lot of book knowledge.
You do. You read the books. How do you think they fared? Because they're pretty much like the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like that was a faithful adaptation.
Season 1 is a straight adaptation, basically.
But you're stupid, right? Because you don't like the books. Or
No.
it's not that you don't like the books, but everybody I know who's read the books says it's like the best thing ever, and you're the one guy who's like, It's like, yeah, they're okay.
I think the first book and the first season are exactly the same almost. But the first season, the book leaves out some moments. And there's a moment where Viserys, brother of Daenerys, tries to steal the dragon eggs. And the show expands on these moments, makes them longer, more personal. But I like it with season 1 is that this expanded moments. And the show goes in this tighter direction where the books go crazy and everywhere, where so many people show up, die, have no importance. There's a Targaryen who shows up in the 5th book out of nowhere and just tries to take over the world.
Is that
And
the
he's like,
Egg? Or what's his name?
yeah, his name's Egg. It's Aegon. And he shows up and he's just 18 years old. And he just buys army in like a month and tries to take
Is
over
he
Westeros.
like a major character in the books?
He appears. He's a major plot development.
Yeah, he's got a comic book, right? I think, or there's like a bunch of stuff.
No, that's a different Aegon. There's like
this
18
show's stupid.
Aegons. There's 18 Aegons basically. But yeah. I love season 1. It's just a political thriller. And there's really no fantasy. It's only at the beginning of the season, at the end. Both about the White Walkers and the dragons, of course, and the best part. But it's really just seeing this man who wants to uncover the mystery of why his father figure, Jon Arryn, died. And leads to a bunch of incest.
Yeah, what do you guys...
Right. Like you said, it starts with Jon Arryn, the death of Jon Arryn, who was the hand of Robert Baratheon, the king of Westeros. And now Robert Baratheon is turning to his childhood friend, Ned Stark. And so we're introduced to the Stark family, who are these noble characters, and like going through each one of these. Who's your favorite Stark?
My favorite Stark is Ned. And it's because he is the only honorable character in the entire show.
Whoa.
Truthfully, I believe so. He's a man that sticks by his guns, and
like Ramsay? He's so honorable.
so honorable. The only moment that Ned does something that goes against his honor is for his daughters, and that's when he lies and says he is a traitor. And the moment this honorable man betrays this code is when he gets killed. And that really sets the tone for the show.
Did you watch that like when it was happening? Or like when did you guys start watching the show?
I was
like in what season?
13, and I was in 8th grade. Yeah.
Did you start with season 1? Were you 13 when season 1 was coming out?
No, season 4 was just about to start.
When you were 13? Was I 13
so.
too?
Yeah, I was 13 or 14. I was in 8th grade. I remember that.
The age
No,
was-
I was the exact same.
Yeah.
When season 4 is like the finale was like gonna happen like the next week, and so I had like 6 days to catch up completely, and I did it all.
I remember nerding out with my 8th grade English teacher. Me and her, we talked about the death of Joffrey, and we were like, "Yeah, kill that."
You can bond with your teachers over. In my math teacher in 8th grade, we bonded over Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
It's tight.
Both are good shows to bond over. My favorite Stark would also be Ned, for all the reasons you pointed out. Also, Sean Bean is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think that character arc there, where he was the most honorable, but he did something that was dishonorable. But we, of course, knew that was because he was a great father.
Because he's a
But then now everyone else but then everyone else thinks, he was actually a bad person and actually tried to like collude to kill the king when that wasn't true. That's so sad and so tragic.
Now, of course, we're also introduced to the Lannisters because Cersei is married to Robert, and initially we are led to believe that they could be allies to the Starks because in terms of allegiances, since she's married to Robert, the Lannisters and Starks start off on a pretty good footing for the series, and that just all deteriorates by the end, mostly due to Joffrey and Cersei's meddling. So, what do you think of the Lannisters when you first meet them in the series?
I love the Lannisters, and I think they start off very like devious to begin with, because the first time you meet them is when it's Jaime and Cersei talking over Jon Arryn's funeral bed, and they're talking about, do you think he found out, and talking about the mystery of their twincest. And like they start off in this devious position, and even when you begin to meet them, like even when Tyrion shows up, he's just this drunk little guy. But they start off as almost archetypes of evil, like political greatness. And I think the best moment with the Lancers is when Jaime talks to Ned Stark, and Ned hates Jaime because he thinks this is this honorable man that took this vow of life to protect his king, and he stabs him in the back. And they have this great interaction in Winterfell where Ned calls him out for being this honorable.
Did you understand any of that stuff when you watched the first time? Because I was really trying hard to keep up with, like, or especially in season 1, in, like, 13-year-old Joe was like, you really don't get a lot of the backstory when you first start watching the show, as far as, like, why it's important that they call him the Kingslayer, like, what happened with like Jaime or the old Kings. There's so much lore and so much, like, backstory. I had to, like, look everything up before I actually, like, started to, like, follow the show.
Yeah, what I did is that I watched the first season. I torrented it. And
how dare you, dude? Cut this.
How could you?
And then
Me too.
I thought it was interesting, but I like missed a lot. Mostly what I got out was that Ned died and that Arya was really cool when I first watched it. And so I went back and I read all 5 books, and I realized how much I missed. And I went back and rewatched season 1 and caught myself up. And I was just so surprised how much I missed. And I don't understand how the show's so popular.
Yeah,
when there's so much that, like,
more so in the beginning, because in the beginning it's very dense and very, like, political and kind of hard to follow. And not to get too ahead of ourselves, I think that goes away pretty much after season 5. Is like I guess we could talk about that later when we talk about the later seasons. But it's like that initially is like why I like the show so much, is because it was like I really needed to, like, pay attention in order to, like, follow it. Like, you can't really, like, miss an episode or, like, not pay attention for an episode, because you're gonna be like, what? Who is that? Like, what's happening?
I know, and I love that about the show, is that, like, every scene is so important, either to the characters
in the first 4 seasons.
I think even in the later seasons, where everything is still so much relevant to them in that moment.
Yeah,
that's what helps it make it so unpredictable.
Yeah, or especially the lore stuff. Like, I think if you don't know the stuff about the houses and the history and, like, Robert's Rebellion, it's really hard to, like, piece together certain things, or you're going to be, like, more behind than somebody who, like, knows about that stuff would be.
And of course, at the end of season 1, we get Joffrey's first decision as king, which is, even though Ned denounces Stannis' claim to the throne and his own type of coup, even though he's, of course we know now, right, Joffrey continues to go ahead and have Ned beheaded, which really just separates the Starks almost instantaneously in that moment, because we have Sansa, who's being held captive in King's Landing. We have Arya, who's being taken to Castle Black to meet up with Jon. We have Jon, who's in Castle Black. We have Robb and Rickon and Bran are all stuck in Winterfell, and then Robb goes off to the war, so leaving Rickon and Bran behind. So everyone just sort of scatters, absolutely, and that really, like, shows this sort of de-evolution of the Stark family. What do you think? Has that come full circle? Have they come back to being a whole family again now that we're at near the end?
I think it's cool to see them together, or, like, whenever they, like, meet up again, but I don't, it's, like, weirdly, it's definitely not the same tone that it was in the beginning. Like, the realism really isn't there in the later seasons, so when they do meet again, it's like, you know, I don't know. I think the Arya and Sansa stuff was, like, a little weird.
Have all of them gotten together again, though? Like the Bran, Arya? I don't think they have yet.
Jon has not met Arya and Bran yet.
Yeah, so we haven't had the full... That's coming up in season 8.
Yes.
Which will be interesting. I mean, you should still be excited for that, right, Joe? All of them back together?
I'm excited. It's just season 7 was such a roller coaster of emotions for me. It's like every episode was like... It was me and my brother would watch it together and just start screaming about it after each episode. And just be like, this... I don't know. I don't want to scream here. But you know, it's a little chill little show. I just think what's happening over here, and I don't want to point anything out, but there's some.
We're going. What's happening, Joe? Is we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah, okay.
And when we return, we'll talk more about those later seasons that you want to get to so bad. But we'll talk about the Prime before we get to that.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about what's good about it.
Yeah, but right now you're listening to Sunflower by Sway Lee and Post Malone. Welcome back to Box Office Breakdown. The time is 4:26. Dylan and I are joined by our colleagues Spencer Giles and Joe Jacks, and we're going to talk about Game of Thrones. And Spencer, you are on the edge of your seat trying to talk about Sansa and Arya.
Hey, yes, welcome back. We just talked about how the Stark family reunions, and I think this is where the show in its latest season kind of failed and had like the worst moment of the show for me. Because earlier in season 6, Jon and Sansa, these two characters who were so separated, and even though they were related by blood, they weren't connected emotionally because they've been through so much in these 5 years that's happened that when they finally see each other, another family member, they hug and they feel connected. But when Arya just shows up later, the show manipulates the audience, makes this fake character. And they have this weird tension and they lie to each other and they make it seem Arya is either going to kill Sansa or Sansa's going to kill Arya. But at the end, it's just this big twist, this fake tension in order to kill Littlefinger. And it just doesn't make any sense, especially when they have these moments of tension when Littlefinger's not there and it's just the two of them. And you see no planning of killing Littlefinger, who shouldn't have died.
I think the Littlefinger death, one of the worst moments in the entire show as far as, like, I mean, just they didn't even think it through. Like, what is it, the Tyrion trial in, like, season 3? That was, like, an entire season of, people, it's like a big trial and they do the trial by combat and it's like a huge deal. I think it lasts like half the season. And then it's like, Arya just says like Littlefinger is like doing bad stuff and then they just kill him in front of everybody. It's like, where's the logic in anything in the show anymore? Like, it really just doesn't make any sense, like, internally.
And with Littlefinger, compared to the books, Littlefinger is one of the most interesting characters to me. And that's because he realized when he kills Catelyn Stark's sister, pushing out the moon door, he reveals that he planned this entire war, that he was the one who sent the fake letter. He helped kill Jon Arryn. He calls the war between the Starks and Lannisters because chaos is a ladder, and he just wants to sit on this Iron Throne. And he had this entire plan to game out. He was seeing it in such a bird's eye view, and was seeing 5 years ahead while everyone else was seeing so close to the chest. And they kept it so personal and revengeful, and he was thinking so objectively. And he just killed off by these two girls for no reason.
So you guys would say you're fans of Littlefinger, like big fans of Littlefinger?
Yes.
Well, he's a cool character. I think a lot of people like him better than me. I like that he's like conniving, but I think it ruins pretty much everything to find out. It's like, because the whole time you're like, oh, secretly, like, beyond our knowledge, he's like doing all this stuff, and you never really know like who can actually trust him. And then it's like, it just turns out he's kind of dumb.
Yeah, in the books, he's just like this genius level. Like, he's like almost a Stephen Hawking of politics in this world. And the show doesn't do that justice. It does it in the earlier seasons, but later he just become this character with just an army. And I do like how Sansa is the one to cause him to die, but it's built off this fake tension with Arya that she has that causes death to feel emotionless.
It's such a dumb scene, just killing him in front of everybody. And
I can understand that. And we'll get more into that around the time we talk about season 7 and 8. So back to, we're around season 2 now. What do you think of the maybe major episode of that season, the Battle of Blackwater, where Tyrion really takes control and shows his true side as not just a drunk, as a force to be reckoned with?
No, that was mad chill. I think, was it when Podrick and Bronn and Tyrion, was that when they were doing their whole thing? I think that was one of the highlights of the show, was when it's like, I go back to YouTube and just look up old clips of them, like, palling around, and, like, Podrick's got a really big wiener, and, like, apparently, right? That was, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen this, but, like, there's some, I'm trying to think, like, season 2 specific stuff. Was that when, I don't think I really liked Jon that much at that point either. I think that's when Robb was really starting to become my favorite character. Yeah,
I love the Battle of the Blackwater. I love it because it's so much character defining for so many people. So they want Joffrey to lead this army, and he chickens out and abandons all his people. And you have the Hound having a character defining moment when he's such afraid of fire, and he screams "F the King" and leaves behind everything that he had in King's Landing. And then Tyrion finally becomes this leader that stands up and tries to protect the people he's been protecting all season. And then you have a great little moment with Podrick, where he's just this worthless little kid, but with a big wiener. And then he stabs him with this Kingsguard in the spear and kills him and saves Tyrion's life. And then you have the same thing with Sansa helping other people, and then Cersei, who's willing to kill herself to protect her children. There's so much defining character moments in that one battle that makes it so realistic and good.
So would you say that the ending to this battle was kind of disappointing in that you see Tyrion take on this leadership role, and then he's like fighting off these forces, and he's doing a pretty good job. But he's about to lose, and then Tywin just comes in at the last second and takes the glory and takes the position of the hand away from Tyrion, and just kind of like takes over and leaves Tyrion to be a drunk again. Is that a little bit disappointing to you?
No, I think that's exactly like what Spencer was saying. That's character defining stuff. And then afterwards, of course, is like in the books, he got real ugly after that like battle. Like his nose got cut off.
In the books, Tyrion's always been super ugly.
Well,
He's super ugly.
Yeah,
then he
no.
got
What,
more.
what's
Go ahead.
What's his name? The Peter Dinklage. He's mad cute. He's
Oh yeah, he's super hot.
yeah. He's like, we can't
Yeah.
say he's ugly just
And
because
that's
he's a
why
dwarf.
they
If he
didn't
had real
want-
legs, he would be
He's
chill.
the Brad Pitt of little people.
That's accurate. So they didn't want to like make him too ugly because I mean it's impossible to do with Peter Dinklage. But in the books he got real bad, and then he got the scar in the show, and then it's just this whole thing where Tywin now becomes Hand of the King, and Tyrion is like no longer able to, and he loved playing the game because he was good at it, and then everything's taken when he saved the city. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you ask if it was disappointing, I guess like as an audience member, it's definitely disappointing to see characters that you like get like bad stuff happen to them. But that's what Game of Thrones is. It's like as a narrative, it's like, you know, I want more bad stuff to happen.
Now, we have all this crazy stuff happening over in Westeros and around King's Landing. And then on the other side of the globe, we have Daenerys Targaryen, who is the descendant of the Targaryen line, and her brother Viserys, back in Season 1, of course, he gets a gold crown. He gets just molten gold just dumped right on his head. So he gets taken care of because he was kind of a butt. And then we have Daenerys taking control after Khal Drogo unfortunately passes on, which was sad to everyone to watch. And so she takes control, and now she has dragons. So in Season 2, we see her going to Qarth after the Red Waste, getting through all that. And in Qarth, her dragons are taken, and she has to fight her way to get them back. Do you think this is the moment where Daenerys really shows her true colors as a leader of her people and as a true ruler of Westeros, like as an audience member?
I don't think so. In that moment, she's starting to show her leadership capabilities by guiding this group of Dothraki, but it feels so much off like fake leadership almost. She hasn't proven herself, and I think her leadership moments in this is like just the beginning, like the pre-work for her bigger armies, because all those Dothraki people like die at the end of Season 2. They all get murdered, and it's almost her fault by trusting these people even when she didn't have a choice. And it sets up that great moment with the Unsullied in the next season, where she does actually know how to lead people, how to get people to trust her, and she trusts them.
Well, were you guys? Because I feel like Daenerys' character was really strong, and her storyline was interesting in the first season. But I think as it progresses and the more power she sort of gets, it kind of. I mean, I'm not saying she doesn't have a character, but I mean, it's like, what can you really say about her other than like she's like wants to be leader, she's like tough, and that.
I can sort of agree with you there. I thought her Season 1 arc was good. I thought the Season 2 arc for her was the most boring of any of the show, but also the weakest for her as a character.
Yeah, and like what are her values is like kind of vague, because sometimes she like really cares about like ending slavery and all this, but then she's like she rules the nine fit. It seems like most of what she cares about is just getting power.
True. And now moving on to Season 3, we have the war progressing in Westeros, and there's a lot of development with that. The leader of the Tully passes on, that was Robb's uncle. And then he passes on, and so the Riverlands are exposed in a way. And so now we have Robb kind of like failing out as king, and the Lannisters have this opening, and they fill that opening with what we call the Red Wedding, with the Freys in Season 2 when Robb betrays his arranged marriage with the Freys. So the Freys get revenge after they supposedly set up this wedding with Edmure Tully and one of the Frey daughters, and then it all just goes crazy. What in the moment watching that scene, what was going through your mind with the Red Wedding?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if you all knew that was going to happen, because when I watched the show, I knew that happened, and so it kind of like devalued
me
it.
too,
But if you guys, did you not know what was going to happen?
For most of the show, I didn't, and then because around Season 2, when Robb starts like doing his thing, he really like becomes like the coolest character in the show with like his wolf, and he's like never lost a battle. He's like so dope, and I was like, this guy's the best. I was like, I hope he makes it to the end. And then I looked up, I think his wiki, or like around Season 1 or 2, and I don't know what I was thinking I would find, but then like one of the first thing that comes up is like season whatever, episode 9, like Red Wedding. I'm like, okay, that's what the Red Wedding is.
I read the books, but I had the same thing with Joe where I looked up online on Wikipedia, and I didn't see anything about Rob or anything, but I just saw the Red Wedding, and I thought that, that sounds very bad. And it was very bad. But the thing with Game of Thrones was that there's like 14 weddings at once in that season almost. There's so many people almost getting married. Like Tyrion and Sansa get married in that season. And yeah, so like I never knew what was going to happen. But it completely shocked me. But one thing I do hate about the Red Wedding in the show compared to the books is that Rob's wife is not there in the books. It's a different character entirely. And she's not pregnant. So when the show starts, and it starts by his pregnant wife being stabbed in the stomach and her dying and this baby dying, it just felt like it was trying to cause even more pain and sorrow in the audience.
That's dope, though.
And it was just almost too much.
And in season 3, while this is of course happening and devastating audiences ever, we have a lot of progression with Jon Snow's storyline up past the wall because he is now separated from his group of Night's Watch and he's now part of the Wildlings as a double agent of sorts. So now he's sort of working inside the Wildlings and inside Mance Rayder's kind of group of people as they attempt to go back past the wall and try to assault. And he starts a relationship with Ygritte. And at the same time, the Night's Watch with Samwell Tarly and Lord Commander Mormont, there's a huge mutiny within them at Craster's Keep. And Commander Mormont is killed in action, and so we have just the split of the Night's Watch completely. Like they all go beyond the wall within the season. They all split, and it's all just fractured and destroyed. And this is Jon's kind of like defining moment where I guess season 4, but in season 3, he's really focusing on infiltrating the ranks and really working on his relationship with Ygritte. So, what did you think about that in terms of him incorporating himself with the Wildlings and beginning a real legitimate relationship with Ygritte?
I think when the show started, I did not like Jon Snow that much. It was like like when he shows up, it's like literally his whole character for like a good season and a half was just like, he's like, and it was like, that was it. That was his whole character. And then as it goes, I feel like the whole thing of why I started to like Jon Snow is just because they took a character who was kind of like mopey and annoying. And just, that's pretty much what you it's like they do that with multiple characters in the show where they just make them go through a lot of hard stuff and then you just like them. Even though their character didn't even really change that much, it's just you see them struggle a lot. And the more Jon Snow struggled, the more I was like, yeah, it's dope. But I think when I really started to like him, and especially looking back, probably like my favorite part of the show was like the stuff with him and Ygritte.
I love this part of the season. I love Jon Snow. And yeah, I had the same trouble with him in the beginning. But he comes up after he kills Qhorin Halfhand and like makes these hard choices. And it's also him actually developing an attachment with someone he never thought he could have before with Ygritte. And I really like how season 3 finally gave payoffs to all of them, from Dany having an army to Jon being with the Wildlings and to Arya traveling with the Hound. And I love with the Night's Watch splitting into 2 with Samwell is when he and Gilly, when they go and they kill a White Walker, one of the dopest moments of the show because he can finally be super brave.
All right. Do you guys think season 3 is the best season of the show for you guys?
It's hard for me to keep track because I watched them like all at once, so all of them just kind of like blended into
really?
like one episode. But I think of it in terms of like moments. It was season 3 was the Ygritte stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think season 3 was probably the best as far as... I mean, just, yeah, even if I look back at that, and especially comparing it to later on when he gets with Daenerys, it's so obvious, like, how the writing changed as far as, like, their chemistry was, like, 100% there, and, like, they were, like, making fun of each other. He's like, oh, you're stupid, Jon Snow, and he's like, with him and Daenerys, it was, like, it literally felt like writers were just going, like, yeah, you've seen them both, like, they're here now, they're together.
And now after season 3, we move on to season 4, which starts off with the Purple Wedding, which has Joffrey drink a little too much and poison gets involved. And of course, Joffrey dies almost immediately. And that was a huge sensation to fans everywhere because they loved watching him die so horribly because he was a great character, but just a terrible, terrible, terrible character. You know what I'm saying?
I love the death of Joffrey so much because he sucks. He's the first person I wish was real to watch him die.
Wait, but Ramsay's worse though, right?
Ooh.
Watch. I mean, what? How can you argue?
As a person, he's worse, but as a person to hate, I hate Joffrey more.
I
hate him
don't
so
know.
much more.
Well, because Ramsey was the type of like obvious evil where it's like it was almost like kind of 2-dimensional, or less so at the beginning. I mean, it was just like watching him like torture people is much worse than watching Joffrey like misbehave.
But Ramsey's also tough. Like I would not mess with Ramsey. Like I would not punch Ramsey in the face because he would cut me up and kill me.
Yeah, I guess.
Joffrey would just have his mom call up at some guards and they would slap me.
Yeah, Joffrey had his moments though, right? He was chill.
No.
It was very devastating when he died.
Incest babies aren't chill.
He had some moments like that one time when Tywin came up to him and he was like, "Should we worry about Daenerys across the sea?" And he's like, "No, you're dumb." But I was like, Joffrey was like right about that
I don't even remember that.
because she was a threat to the thing. All right, another thing that happened was Oberyn Martell in the mountain.
It was tight.
What did y'all think of that? Of course, crushed him in a battle, quite literally. What did you think?
It's dope. That was a great fight. I mean, as far as the surprise at the end, but yeah, go ahead, Spencer.
Oh, I love the fight. I love the whole trial. And I love when the mountain, who's being poisoned, picks up Oberyn, lifts him over himself, and just punches all his teeth out. And it's insane. And then just this horrible human scream watching a loved one die, which is bad, but it's just so human.
And then you find out later how much she sucks.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But then I also love, after Tyrion's trial, and he's charged, and Jaime breaks him out, is when Tyrion walks into his father's room with a crossbow, and he sees Shay lying there naked, and she says, "My lion." And that, to me, shocked me more than the Red Wedding. And then when he takes the necklace that he gave her so many seasons ago and choked her, and then it's just crazy.
That wasn't in the books, or was it?
That was in the books.
That
I
was
thought
in
Shay
the books?
wasn't really that much of a character in the books.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, that wasn't as impactful as it was in the show.
No, it's impactful.
Oh.
And then
okay.
when Tywin dies
Yeah.
on the toilet.
Can we talk about the before that fight wasn't that the best monologue in the show where
The trial thing?
He's in the prison and he starts talking about like a kid with Down syndrome that he knew who like used to eat bugs. Yeah, what was that?
I don't know what you're on about.
Sorry,
All right, we're gonna take a break after that, but don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're gonna play a Game of Thrones guessing game and give our predictions for the final season. You're listening to Box Office Breakdown on WNSC University of Central Florida, and this is Song 2 by Lord. Welcome back to Box Office Breakdown. The time is 4:45, and it is now time to play a Game of Thrones guessing game. Dylan, what do you have for us?
All right, so it's called Guess Who Game of Thrones. So basically what we're going to do is I'm going to start describing a character, and you each have one guess to guess who that character is. You'll have a brief moment to, between each fact that I give, to give your answer if you want to give your answer, but you have one chance. If you get it right, the first person who gets it right gets the point with the most points wins. Clear?
Yes. Whoever
Straight
raises
up,
their
dog.
hand first gets to say the thing.
Word, yeah, let's do it.
All right, are you ready? First character, female.
Shay.
Incorrect.
Sorry.
All right.
You're out, bud.
Yep.
Cersei.
It is Cersei.
What?
Yes.
All right, 1 point for
Did I miss something?
Spencer.
How could you have missed that?
Second character, male.
Ned.
No, incorrect.
Tyrion.
Incorrect.
Oh, I thought
It's up to you.
Jon Snow.
It is Jon
Yes.
Snow. I'm just saying the genders right now.
What's happening?
This is a good game. Hey, you need to raise your hand, Jon.
All right,
Sorry.
this one's a little more tricky. It's It's not a popular character. Okay, male.
Poldrick.
No,
Hodor.
no.
Oh, I got nothing. I'm trying to think of less popular characters.
Smart. His great grandfather is from Bravos.
Littlefinger.
It's Littlefinger.
That's not
correct.
a minor character. I was thinking like the little kid who sucks the woman's boobie.
All right.
My favorite.
Robin.
The next character is a male, a warrior, currently deceased,
The
was defeated in battle many times. You have a guess?
I'm out now.
You have a guess? No?
Oh,
Arrogant. Okay, go ahead. No?
you keep throwing these new ones out, and I'm like, oh, the one I had.
Rhaegar Targaryen.
Incorrect. He killed people in cold blood for power. No,
Khal Drogo.
not Khal Drogo.
Shoot.
No, wait, you already made your guess. Sorry, Spencer. His daughter was
douche.
killed. He was killed by another warrior. This one should give it away. He's a follower of fire.
Stannis Baratheon.
Stannis Baratheon is
Oh.
correct.
Nailed
What
it.
a nothing
There we go.
Who
character.
cares?
Next one. Male, warrior, undefeated, sibling rivalry.
The Mountain. Oh,
He called
fudge.
it. He called it. It's the Mountain.
Frick.
The Mountain is correct. All right, the next one. Male, ruthless, currently deceased, Lord of the Dreadfort.
Ramsey Bolton.
Incorrect.
That's so stupid.
Roose Bolton.
Bruce Bolton is correct.
The door.
All right, male, warrior,
Rob.
killed in season 1.
Ned. Ned's
Wife
man.
avenges his death.
Khal Drogo.
Khal Drogo is correct. And the last one, male, smart, conniving, backstabber.
Oh, the monkey guy. The monkey dude. The spider.
Incorrect. Do you have a guess,
I
Spencer?
was gonna say the spider.
Yeah,
He
okay.
said backstabbing.
Killed in season 1.
Spider.
Blonde.
Joffrey.
Viserys Targaryen.
Viserys Targaryen is correct.
He's not blonde.
We
He's
didn't.
platinum.
Everybody in this room right now is kind of blonde.
Dude, blonde Forrest go. We didn't keep points, but that's
I
great.
would say Spencer is the winner on this one.
Well,
A blonde?
Spencer's the
agree.
winner in life. On the set, you weren't on coach, but on the coach set, it got to a point where everybody was just coming up with different ways that Spencer is like a being that exists outside of time, and like everybody should worship him.
and they could never find the true answer because
All
there's
right.
too many.
Returning to Game of Thrones, we're coming back here into season 5 now, where we
It's
have
up.
the sparrows showing up, which was a little bit irritating. We have just a lot of irritating things happen. The people Daenerys talking about with the Slaver's Bay, that whole story arc was my least favorite, if you ask me. Worse than Arya's assassin training, which I know Spencer doesn't like that at all.
I don't think many people do they?
No.
I'm trying to think of the things to like about
Season
the season.
5 is also when Arya begins her assassin training with the Faceless Men.
I think
so-
they should have skipped that.
Season
They should have did what they did with Bran.
Season 5 is like the beginning. I totally agree about that. They should have
Yeah.
skipped it. But season 5 is where like so many things happen so quickly in the other seasons. It's when they started slowing it down was in season 5. And everything is kind of lackluster. Where if you put that in like these big moments of other seasons and then had these small moments, but season 5 is just completely small moments.
But-
except Hard Home.
Except
yeah,
Hardhome.
Hardhome really blew my mind when I watched it for the first time.
It was like the biggest battle episode we've seen so far, and it was. I remember hearing something that the director took it as trying to approach it like a horror movie, really suspenseful, drawing you in, and then just like blowing you away with these horror moments, and just the ending with the Night King standing out with his arms out was
It's
just
iconic.
haunting.
Well,
And that
it
was a great end to that season. That was such a terrible, terrible season.
And one great part about Game of Thrones is how like they can make you connect with such minor characters so quickly. Because there's that one wildling woman in Hard Home, who just like she like sends her two daughters off, and she feels like a lived-in character, and you care about her. She dies, comes back to life, and you feel so bad for her. But she's only in this one episode.
She's mad cute.
Also true.
And then, of course, we end season 5 with something tragic. Jon Snow is murdered by mutineers.
But it's not true.
But then we get into season 6, and he's resurrected by Melisandre. So it give or take,
yeah,
we're
but that
okay.
was a big. Also, I don't understand. Like that was the biggest pop culture moment at the time. Like everyone knew Jon Snow died, and they're like, "Who's Jon Snow?" But we knew he died. Like that's how I knew.
The
Way back then.
resurrection was a bit silly, was it?
A little bit.
a little bit. I just don't like the whole
Like the
the whole fire people, just in general, the people who worship fire. I've never liked that.
I think they're chill.
It's
Wait,
silly.
the
How
red
dare you?
The red people?
I love when she gives birth to the Shadow Baby,
That was creepy.
It was dope.
That was
Back in
awesome.
season 2, that was creepy.
and then Thoros Samir has like the fire sword, and like the other
That's
guy comes
cool.
back
I like
from
the
life.
fire sword.
Yeah.
See, that's how you know is like
Yeah.
where his sensibilities are. Yeah, the giving birth to a demon that's like exists to assassinate people. It's like not with the fire sword was dope.
Dude, that was great. Also, obviously, Battle of the Bastards was in this season. What do y'all think?
in the
Ramsay
next
versus
season.
Jon. No, we're talking about season 6.
We're in
now.
6.
Never mind.
Oh wait, we didn't even mention the sand snakes.
I mean,
That
they're
That was
so
definitely
bad.
the worst part
We
of
can
the
just
show
skip
up
this.
till then.
We can
Yeah,
skip this.
Yeah.
skip sand snakes.
But-
They're bad.
Just do what the show did.
I mean, just the Battle of the Bastards was intense, and it was like even better than Hard Home. They keep stepping up with these battle episodes. And I think it was great.
It's one of the best movies of that year it came out. I've probably seen Battle of the Bastards like 30 different times, and every time it's just so amazing, especially when Jon is just covered over these dead bodies, struggling to breathe and being stomped on by everyone. and comes out and breathes, and all hope does feel lost until Littlefinger's army shows up.
Absolutely.
And it's so sad when the giant dies.
It is. Battle of the Bastards is really, 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 really good for all the reasons that everybody has said, but I do think it represents where the show starts to go bad for me, or at least, or in terms of what you're all saying is definitely true about how good it is, but I think they took that, and with season 7 they were like, okay, so people like big action, that's like what the show is now, and the show was really never, except for certain moments like we've even talked about, but it was never about like big action. It was about like character stuff, and I feel like Battle of the Bastards was so good, and that's what the show became.
Just trying to transition.
Okay, to compare to the battles of season 6, season 7, is what the Battle of the Bastards and the next episode's battle of the blowing up the Sept are so great is because their emotional payoff for these characters, from Jon getting and defeating Ramsay and Sansa later killing Ramsay, and then with Cersei blowing up these sparrows and her rivals, there was so much emotion in those scenes, which season 7 just didn't have.
The season 6 finale was dope.
I was so glad at that end because I hated the sparrows. Just every time I saw them, made me angry. But of course,
That was one of my favorite episodes of the whole show. Was
when
that
they blew
season
up?
6, episode 10? Yeah,
Yep.
that
was
whole
great.
part was
This is
amazing.
great, and the music like through the whole
Oh,
episode.
I was just about to say that. The music is so amazing and so haunting, and it's incredible. And then the death of Tommen is so shocking
Tommen takes a
afterward.
dive.
Yes.
That's such a good shot.
I know. And then Cersei, her reaction's not even like human anymore when it happens. She just
She's lost
accepts
all
it.
humanity.
She accepts all the grief immediately.
But the plus side, now she's the queen,
Yeah.
which is exactly what she's always wanted, to be the real
The
legit
queen.
queen. And that brings us right into season 7, where Dany finally makes it to Westeros. And, of course, Jon Snow and Daenerys meet. And so we're watching this.
A lot more than that.
Not yet. So we're watching Jon and Dany meet, and then they're trying to dig out this dragon glass and trying to decide the next step in beating the Lannisters. And then we get to this epic final meeting between all of the characters we love so much, and they just talk about the future. That's all it is them talking about the future. What did you think about that scene where we got to see all our characters together?
I think a lot of the stuff where you see characters meet together, well, specifically with Jon and Dany, I do like that episode. Like, I didn't know where the season would go after that as far as like the quality, but it does feel a bit overwritten. I feel like the creators have this feeling of like, oh, these are the two most important characters. We need to like say everything and like make it like a big monologue. Where I don't know if if I'm being honest, I don't think any of the character meetings in like season 7 really feel authentic to like the rest of the show.
I can agree with that, except one character meeting, and that's between Brienne of Tarth and Arya. I think is amazing in the show. These two like warrior women fighting and practicing against one another.
Oh,
Each
that
with
was
their
so
long sword.
dumb, dude.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much.
Arya's
And
so
when she picks up the dagger,
stupid. She's got like a little tiny sword.
I don't
and it's
like
oh.
Arya, but I love Brienne so much, and them meeting. And I used to love Arya, and it felt like coming full circle.
That was like
for
an
me.
anime where it's like you got the characters in the back being like,
Yeah.
like looking at the fight, and I don't know. Well, there was, oh my god, there was like the Hound meeting everybody in that one episode. We'll talk about that maybe in a minute. Oh, the Hound gets destroyed. His character's, oh my god, dude. Are we gonna talk about the worst episode in the show? Do you
Go
know? Do
ahead.
you all know what you're talking about?
Do it.
No, I haven't
Do you,
seen this
do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
When I say worst episode in the show, it's the
Go
one,
for it.
the Suicide Squad episode where they team up and go
episode. Yeah.
outside of the wall. It's like everything is. Oh my god! With the zombie polar bear and the
And then they like tried to do another fake kill Jon Snow thing, which no one believed at all.
wait, which one was that?
That same episode, like when he like fell in the water, and then like Benjen saved him, and then Benjen died.
Wait, was Jon Snow with all of them?
Yeah.
You mean Beyond
okay.
the Wall, right?
Yeah, I'm just remembering everything. I only remember the stupid parts of. Wait, sorry. Go ahead. Were you?
All right, so just by the wayside with time constraints, we're going to talk about Season 8, what's coming up. I do have something for you guys that might interest you based on what you were talking about earlier. I've been talking to my dad, who is a Game of Thrones fan, and he has a coworker whose friend has seen, quotes, claims to have seen one of these scripts to Game of Thrones,
Liar.
and they're saying that Littlefinger is not dead.
Liar.
That's so
stupid.
stupid.
But here's where it gets tricky. So you can see in one of the episodes. Here's how the theory goes. I just want to put it out for you. I don't even know if I believe it.
Can I guess it?
You can guess it.
Does he become like the new Night King?
No.
Then it's stupid.
He's not the new Night
That'd
King.
be stupid. What do you mean?
What the theory is that the person that died was not Littlefinger, it was a faceless man, and that he gives a coin to a girl in one of the episodes. You can see him hand a coin to a girl in one of the episodes, and they're saying that that's one of the iron coins from Braavos, the Valar Morghulis thing, and they're saying that that's not him dead, and they think that Littlefinger will end up on the Iron Throne.
This show's stupid. TV shows are stupid. This is all, I don't know. I'm excited to see where it goes, just so, I don't know. I hope it's consistent with Season 7. I hope it's just as, dumb. Well, here's the thing, though. I get why people like Season 7. All right, sorry, I wish yeah, the Littlefingers thing is stupid, but I get why people like Season 7 because there's a lot of good moments in it, but what I liked about the show before is completely gone now. They sped everything up to 100%, everybody's teleporting from one place to another. The thing I liked about the show was how it was a fantasy show that was super realistic, and people would just die from getting a wound infection, and people would take half of a season would be one character walking from one place to the other and having adventures that, on the way, and
And to bring up the last point, each of you, who do you want to end up on the Iron Throne, and who do you think will end up on the Iron Throne?
I don't think there's going to be an Iron Throne.
Elaborate.
There's either a fire's going to lit it on fire, or the Night King's going to freeze it, and it's going to break. But I don't think there will be an Iron Throne.
All right.
Podrick.
All right. Ryan, do you have an input?
No, I agree with what Spencer said. I think whoever does take control is not gonna sit on the Iron Throne at the end. That's not gonna be the last shot.
George R. R. Martin has said something about the ending, and it is that I think he specifically said it's a bittersweet ending, and so I can't expect that Jon and Daenerys are gonna be on the throne at the end. Except the show's stupid, so they might make that happen.
That could be his ending though, because the show's at this point that's almost so different from the books. That could have an entirely different ending.
Absolutely.
They probably will. It'll probably be Jon and Dany on the throne with their little kid who's going to take over someday and it's going to be happy. Because no characters die anymore, right?
I don't think that's going to happen.
No characters die anymore, right?
What?
I think these
the whole
characters are
thing
gonna
with
die.
Game of Thrones, everybody used to die at any time. It's anybody could die, nobody's safe. You're constantly on edge. Now, who was the last person that had a real death that was surprising?
Littlefinger. Well,
that was
surprising.
That
no.
wasn't stupid.
But I think that's why people are excited for Season 8, because they think where Season 7 lacked, that's where Season 8 will pick up. And we'll start killing off so many characters.
No, I agree with that. I think...
I just wanted to feel authentic. Stuff like or any character that died felt so real and so natural and so, I guess authentic. And then now it's just fan fiction. Go ahead.
But I think it's going to happen. With the Battle of Winterfell, when the Night King people come down, and then they're all there. Now they have so many characters that just, survived through the last season. They can just dispatch them in, combat.
Yeah,
So it's, realistic.
AMC.com or whatever. This character died now. It's I don't have any investment. I don't know.
Spencer?
All right.
That's Dylan.
Spencer, do you have anything last to say?
Just about Season 8 is that there's this really great battle scene that's supposed to happen, and it took 70 night shoots to film.
That's true.
And the extras reported walking about 50,000 steps a day, which is physically insane, and I'm really excited.
All right. Well, Season 8 of Game of Thrones premieres this Sunday on HBO, of course. And now, to close out the show, we are going to name our classic movie of the week. Each week we pick one movie that is artistically significant to be considered a classic. What is this week's selection, Ryan?
Our classic movie of the week is Jaws. Steven Spielberg's first major hit, Jaws swam into theaters in 1975, shocking and terrifying audiences everywhere. Jaws follows the harrowing journey of a small New England sheriff, a shark expert, and a seasoned fisherman as they hunt a monstrous killer shark.
Jaws won the 1976 Academy Awards for Best Sound, Film Editing, and Music, and was nominated for Best Picture. Spielberg was also nominated for the Golden Globe for Best Director. Jaws also gave us the iconic theme from the 5-time Academy Award-winning composer John Williams.
Jaws was a revolutionary turn in the horror and thriller genres that gave audiences thrills and chills and sparked a moderately successful franchise. Jaws showed filmmakers the truth to powerful tension and suspense in their movies.
The film has gone on to stand the test of time and stand as one of the greatest horror and suspense films of all time.
We're at the end of our show now. We'd like to thank our listeners for tuning in.
Box Office Breakdown is brought to you by WNSC University of Central Florida, Orlando.
If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at boxofficebreakdown@gmail.com, and you can submit your own classic movies of the week suggestions.
Our main title theme this episode was the Game of Thrones theme by Ramin Djawadi, and our outro music is Cool Daddy Charm by Heinz Keisling. We would like to also thank Spencer and Joe for stopping by and talking Game of Thrones with us.
And again, thank you for listening. Box Office Breakdown will be back next Thursday at 4. Be sure to tune in.